Crime has the power to shock, disturb, and sometimes leave a permanent scar on a community. When a person goes missing, the fear that grows with every passing hour can be unbearable. When that disappearance evolves into something darker, the entire community is forced to face the terrifying possibility of evil hiding in plain sight. The disappearance and murder of Ashley Elkins is one of those cases. It is a story of a young mother who never came home, an investigation that uncovered blood and lies, and a depraved plan that police slowly pieced together. This case has shocked the state of Michigan and has captured national attention because of the horrifying evidence and the unanswered question of where Ashley is. The life of Ashley Elkins was more than just a name in a headline or a photograph shared across social media. She was a real person with dreams, responsibilities, and an entire world that revolved around her. At only 30 years old, Ashley had already built a life of meaning in Warren, Michigan. She worked as a hairstylist, and those who sat in her chair often spoke about how much more she gave them than just a haircut. For her clients, she was a listener, a friend, and someone who brought comfort and positivity to their day. Her warm personality shone through in every interaction, and she had the kind of presence that made people feel welcomed and understood. For her 2 children, she was everything. Her young son and daughter adored her. Friends of the family described how the children would light up whenever Ashley walked into the room. She was the anchor of their lives, the person who made them feel safe, loved, and cared for. Despite the struggles that every single parent faces, Ashley put her children at the very center of her world. She worked tirelessly to provide for them, but she also made time to laugh with them, to play with them, and to ensure that they knew they were loved beyond measure. Her family saw her as the heart of their circle. To her mother, Monica, Ashley was not just a daughter but also a confidante. They shared an unbreakable bond, one rooted in years of love, trust, and shared memories. For her siblings and extended family, Ashley was a source of inspiration. They admired her strength, her ability to juggle work, family, and personal challenges without ever losing her sense of humor or her compassion. Ashley had dreams like any other person. She wanted stability, the chance to raise her children in a safe and nurturing home, and the opportunity to continue building a life filled with joy and security. She often spoke about her hopes for the future, about wanting to give her kids the kind of life that every parent wishes for their children. Yet even as she carried the weight of responsibilities, she never lost her ability to smile, to share moments of laughter, and to create memories with those she loved. It is important to pause and reflect on who Ashley was as a person before diving into the darker details of her disappearance. Too often, in stories of crime, the victims are reduced to statistics or names in court documents. Ashley Elkins was far more than that. She was a mother, a daughter, a friend, and a vibrant woman whose presence left an impact on everyone around her. The day she vanished, January 2, 2025, began like any other day. Ashley left her home in Warren to run errands, just as she had countless times before. There was nothing unusual or alarming about that morning, no indication that anything tragic was about to unfold. She was expected to go about her day and return home to her children, but she never came back. Later, surveillance footage would reveal what became the last known moments of her life. At about 7:50 a.m., Ashley was seen arriving at the apartment of her former boyfriend, Depraved Booker, in Roseville, Michigan. That grainy footage would later become a critical piece of evidence in the investigation. It was the last time anyone confirmed her presence. From that moment on, her phone went silent. Text messages that were usually answered quickly now lingered without response. Calls rang endlessly with no answer. For her family, this was immediately alarming. Ashley was not the type of person to simply vanish. She was a mother with 2 children waiting for her at home, and she had never before abandoned her responsibilities or ignored her loved ones. By the evening, her mother Monica knew something was very wrong. The silence from her daughter was unbearable, and it gnawed at her instincts as a mother. Monica described the overwhelming panic she felt when calls went unanswered. Hours passed, and hope began to fade. Finally, the family contacted police and filed a missing person report. What began as a day of routine errands turned into a nightmare that no one in Ashley's family could ever have imagined. The desperate search news of Ashley's disappearance spread quickly throughout the community. Her family refused to sit idly by. They organized search efforts, printing and distributing flyers, sharing her picture online, and pleading for anyone with information to come forward. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers joined in, forming search parties that canvassed neighborhoods, parks, wooded areas, and abandoned buildings. The urgency in their voices and the determination in their steps showed the love they had for Ashley and the desperation to bring her home. Social media became a powerful tool in spreading awareness. Posts about Ashley's disappearance were shared thousands of times. Her smiling face, once a symbol of joy, now became the symbol of a haunting question: where was she? The search reached a devastating turn when police directed efforts toward a landfill. Investigators feared that Ashley's body might have been disposed of in the trash. The very thought was almost too horrific to bear for her family. For them, this possibility was a cruel reminder of the evil that could have taken her away. Yet they refused to give up hope, even as officers in protective suits and cadaver dogs combed through mountains of waste. Searching a landfill is like searching for a needle in a haystack. Piles of debris towered overhead, and every step carried the unbearable weight of uncertainty. Officers worked for hours, digging, sorting, and investigating, knowing the chances of finding Ashley were slim, but understanding that they owed her and her family every effort. For Monica and the rest of Ashley's family, waiting by the landfill or in their homes was agonizing. Each hour without answers felt like an eternity. The community watched as police searched, prayed, and hoped that Ashley would be found. But as the days turned into weeks, the harsh reality began to set in. The landfill search, though thorough, yielded no sign of her. The family continued to cling to hope, but the silence remained. Arrest and charges. The search for Ashley quickly shifted into a full-scale criminal investigation. The early days of her disappearance were filled with hope that she might be found alive. But that hope soon collided with troubling evidence. Police began looking closely at Ashley's ex-boyfriend, Deandra Booker. He was one of the last people known to have seen her, and his behavior raised red flags almost immediately. Only days after Ashley vanished, police brought Booker in for questioning. From the start, his story was inconsistent. He contradicted himself, provided details that did not align with known facts, and showed a pattern of evasive answers that left investigators convinced he was hiding something. His demeanor only deepened suspicion. When a person close to a victim lies about their movements, detectives know that there is often a larger truth they are trying to bury. Booker was arrested, at first not for murder, but for lying to investigators. Authorities understood the importance of securing him in custody before he could do further harm or attempt to cover his tracks. That initial charge was only the beginning. As forensic teams processed his apartment and investigators combed through digital data, the case against him began to grow stronger and darker. Soon, prosecutors upgraded the charges dramatically. Booker was accused of first-degree premeditated murder, tampering with evidence, mutilation and disinterment of a body, and concealing the death of an individual. These were not light accusations. They were charges that spoke to deliberate action, brutal violence, and a disturbing attempt to erase Ashley from existence. The most striking part of this development was that Ashley's body had not been found. In many murder cases, prosecutors rely heavily on the recovery of a body to establish the cause of death and strengthen their case. Yet in this investigation, the sheer volume of evidence suggested murder beyond doubt. Police, prosecutors, and Ashley's family were confronted with a chilling reality even without her body. The evidence was overwhelming. The digital trail, one of the most haunting aspects of this case, emerged not from physical evidence, but from the digital world. Investigators uncovered a series of Google searches made on Booker's phone that painted a disturbing picture of his intentions. These were not the random musings of a troubled mind. They were searches that revealed planning, intent, and a calculated effort to commit and conceal a crime. Among the most damning queries were: telling God I want to kill someone, 9mm silencer Roseville, shoot gun through pillow, can you track location when phone is off, what happened to trash after it's picked up. Each phrase was a puzzle piece, and together they formed an unmistakable picture of a man preparing for violence. These searches were made before Ashley's disappearance, indicating that the crime was not spontaneous but premeditated. For detectives, the significance was clear. The digital trail exposed a level of depravity that was chilling to read. It revealed not only that Booker wanted to kill, but also that he actively sought methods to silence a weapon, conceal evidence, and understand how trash collection might aid in hiding a body. In the courtroom, prosecutors presented these searches as modern-day confessions. Technology had become an unexpected witness. recording the private intentions that Booker never expected anyone else to see. They proved that his crime was not one of sudden passion, but a calculated plan carried out with disturbing coldness. Crime scene evidence. As investigators dug deeper, they turned their focus to Booker's apartment. What they found inside transformed the case from suspicion to certainty. The bathroom quickly became the focal point. Investigators discovered a large amount of blood that had soaked into the environment despite clear attempts at cleanup. The drain cover had been removed, a telltale sign of someone trying to scrub away traces of what had occurred. Nearby, multiple bottles of bleach sat as silent proof of an attempted cover-up. The walls had been wiped down, but crime scene technicians knew how to reveal traces of blood that could not be erased so easily. Within the bathtub drain, investigators made gruesome discoveries: clumps of hair that matched Ashley, a bullet fragment, and even a silver hoop earring. Each of these items told a story, and together they confirmed that a violent struggle had occurred. The bullet fragment, in particular, was damning, showing that a firearm had been used in close quarters. The sheer quantity of blood confirmed what no one wanted to admit: it was not survivable. Prosecutors later said that the evidence inside the bathroom was enough to prove that Ashley lost her life there. Even without her body, the science of blood evidence, ballistic fragments, and DNA painted a devastating picture. For investigators, this was not just evidence of violence, it was evidence of a deliberate attempt to erase it. The bleach bottles, the wiped walls, and the tampered drain all pointed to a man who believed he could outsmart investigators. Instead, every detail became another piece of proof against him. Surveillance footage. If the crime scene evidence was horrifying, the surveillance footage discovered later added another level of darkness. Cameras near Booker's apartment captured chilling images. In the footage, a man believed to be Booker is seen pushing a cart toward a dumpster. The cart is covered with a white sheet, and beneath it appears to be something heavy. He struggles to lift it, his movements betraying the weight of what he is carrying. At one point, the footage seems to reveal something even more shocking: what looks like a human arm beneath the sheet. It was a fleeting but haunting image, one that investigators and prosecutors would later argue showed Booker attempting to dispose of Ashley's body. Later searches of the dumpster revealed clothing that matched what was seen in the video, along with traces of blood. For the jury, this evidence would be almost impossible to ignore. The video provided a visual confirmation of what the forensic evidence had already suggested. It showed an act of disposal, a desperate attempt to remove Ashley's remains and cover up a crime too horrific to hide. The surveillance footage added another devastating layer to the case. It revealed the stark reality of Ashley's final moments and the brutal lack of dignity with which her life was ended. For her family, knowing that such footage existed was heartbreaking. It forced them to confront the horror of what had been done to their daughter and mother. The courtroom drama. When the case of Ashley Elkins reached the courtroom for its preliminary hearings, the atmosphere was heavy with tension. For weeks, investigators had worked tirelessly to piece together what had happened to Ashley. Now, all of their findings would be placed before a judge, and the first steps toward justice would unfold. Prosecutors came prepared with nearly 200 exhibits. These were not just papers and photographs. They were the fragments of a woman's last known moments and the evidence of a crime committed with chilling calculation. Among them were surveillance videos that appeared to show DeAndre Booker pushing a cart with something heavy under a white sheet, photographs of blood, stained areas in his apartment, and transcripts of his disturbing digital searches. Each exhibit was more haunting than the last, each detail dragging the courtroom deeper into the nightmare that Ashley's family had already been living. Detectives testified with precision. They described the evidence found in Booker's apartment: the large pools of blood in the bathroom, the bullet fragment lodged in the drain, the clumps of hair, and the earring that once belonged to Ashley. They explained how luminol testing revealed attempts to clean the bathroom with bleach, and how forensic science made the invisible visible again. They spoke about the surveillance footage, about what looked unmistakably like a human arm hanging from beneath the sheet, and about the traces of blood later discovered in the dumpster. For Ashley's family, sitting through this testimony was unbearable. They listened as detectives calmly explained evidence that pointed to Ashley's violent death, even though her body had never been found. Every word was a dagger, yet they stayed because they wanted to see justice take shape. Behind them, members of the community filled the seats, showing their support and solidarity. What made the hearings even more tense was Booker's own behavior. He often refused to appear in person, choosing instead to attend virtually. Reports described him as disruptive during these sessions, sometimes refusing to cooperate fully or making the process more difficult than it needed to be. His absence in the courtroom was striking. While Ashley's family faced the unbearable truth head-on, Booker avoided direct confrontation with the people whose lives he had shattered. But despite his refusal, the evidence spoke loudly. It painted a picture more powerful than any words he could have offered. The emotional toll on family, perhaps the most heartbreaking element of this case, has been the lasting impact on Ashley's children. Her 7-year-old son, who is autistic, has struggled deeply with the concept of his mother's absence. He asks constantly if she is ever coming home, his questions piercing the hearts of everyone around him. At such a young age, he cannot fully grasp the permanence of loss, and his confusion is a painful reminder of the innocence stolen from him. Ashley's 10-year-old daughter has also been devastated. Nightmares torment her, and she cries daily for the mother who tucked her in at night, who braided her hair, and who was her safe place. For a child, losing a parent in such violent and unexplained circumstances creates a wound that words cannot heal. Ashley's mother, Monica, has faced the impossible task of explaining to her grandchildren that their mother may never return. She has spoken about the pain of trying to give them comfort when she herself is grieving. Every day is a battle between holding the family together and facing the crushing reality of her daughter's murder. For Monica, the search for Ashley's body is not only about justice but also about dignity. She longs to bring her daughter home, to lay her to rest properly, and to give her grandchildren a place where they can say goodbye. The family's grief has become part of the public conversation. Their tears in court and their words to the media have reminded everyone that behind the headlines and the legal terminology are real people enduring unimaginable pain. This case is not just about evidence and charges. It is about a family who lost the person who meant everything to them. A pause for reflection. Pause and think carefully about what this case reveals. A mother disappeared. Her body has never been found. And yet the clues left behind tell a story so vivid that it feels like stepping into the aftermath of a nightmare. Imagine a bathroom that should have been a place of ordinary routine. Instead, investigators found it transformed into a silent witness of violence. There was blood soaked into surfaces, clumps of hair trapped in a drain, and even a bullet fragment hidden from plain view. A single earring, something once worn with casual pride, lay in a place where it did not belong. These items, ordinary on their own, became powerful symbols when pieced together. They pointed to the brutality Ashley endured and the desperate effort to erase her presence. The signs of a frantic cleanup were impossible to miss. Bleach bottles sat discarded, their chemical smell still clinging to the air. The drain cover had been removed, showing that someone had tried to flush away the evidence of what had happened. Walls bore faint signs of scrubbing, as if wiping away stains could somehow erase guilt. Investigators understood immediately that they were looking at a crime scene, one where violence had been followed by desperation. And then came the digital trail on Booker's phone. A series of chilling Google searches offered a window into his mind in the days leading up to Ashley's disappearance. These searches were not idle curiosity. They spoke of planning and intent. Questions about silencers, about shooting through a pillow, about whether phones could be tracked when switched off. Each one revealed calculation. The most haunting search asked, "What happened to trash after it is picked up?" That simple query told investigators everything someone was thinking about disposal, about hiding a body in the most final way possible. Technology, in this sense, became a silent witness. It recorded the thoughts he tried to keep hidden, and it exposed the dark preparation behind the crime. Surveillance footage added yet another layer of horror. Cameras outside the apartment captured the image of a man, believed to be Booker, pushing a cart toward a dumpster. A white sheet covered something heavy, and his struggle to move it betrayed the weight of what lay beneath. At one chilling moment, the footage appeared to reveal what looked like a human arm slipping into view. For investigators, this was not speculation. Combined with the blood evidence, the hair, the bullet fragment, and the searches, the footage painted a complete picture. It showed an act of concealment, a desperate attempt to remove Ashley from the world and pretend she never existed. This is why this case is not only about crime. It is about persistence, the refusal to let truth remain buried. It is about science and technology working together, to amplify the voices of those who can no longer speak. It is about a community demanding that evil be dragged into the light. Even though Ashley's body has never been recovered, her final moments have been told in a language that cannot lie. The evidence speaks for her, and in doing so, it demands justice. The judge's caution on August 22, 2025, the weight of this evidence came before the court once again. The judge overseeing the case had the difficult task of reviewing every detail presented in the preliminary hearings. Nearly 200 exhibits were logged into the record, each one representing a fragment of truth. Hours upon hours of testimony had been delivered, detectives speaking carefully and methodically about what they uncovered. The transcript of those hearings stretched over 1,000 pages, a reminder of just how layered and complex this investigation had become. The judge recognized that such a monumental case could not be rushed. Decisions about whether the case would proceed to trial required careful thought, not just because of the gravity of the charges, but because of the absence of Ashley's body. Without it, the prosecution would need to rely entirely on circumstantial and forensic evidence. While strong, such cases are always more challenging to present to a jury. Jurors often expect a body, a clear cause of death, something tangible. Here, they would have to rely on science, on surveillance, on digital footprints, and on the testimony of experts. In court, the judge made a striking observation. He compared the search for Ashley's body in the landfill to looking for a needle in a haystack. The metaphor captured the enormity of the challenge. Landfills contain endless mountains of waste, and time only makes the search harder. If Ashley had truly been disposed of there, finding her would be almost impossible. For her family, hearing this comparison was heartbreaking. It meant that closure, in the form of a proper burial, might never come. Yet even as he acknowledged these obstacles, the judge did not minimize the seriousness of the evidence. He emphasized the strength of the case built by investigators. He made it clear that the court understood the gravity of the charges and the suffering of Ashley's family. The expectation was clear this case would move forward, and Deandra Booker would face trial. The judge's caution reflected both the responsibility of the legal system and the complexity of seeking justice without a body. But it also carried a deeper truth. Justice cannot always wait for perfect evidence. Sometimes, it must move forward with the weight of what is known, trusting that the truth, even when incomplete, is powerful enough to speak for itself. The community's response, Ashley's disappearance, and the evidence of her murder sent shockwaves through her community. In the weeks and months that followed, candlelight vigils were organized. Neighbors and friends gathered to light candles, share memories, and pray for justice. Ribbons were worn as symbols of hope and remembrance. Social media pages were created to keep Ashley's story alive, ensuring that her name would not fade into the endless stream of online content. Supporters from across the country sent messages of love and donations to support the family and fund search efforts. The outpouring of solidarity showed that Ashley's story had touched people far beyond her immediate circle. Her case also sparked conversations about the dangers of domestic violence and the subtle warning signs that sometimes go unnoticed. Friends later revealed that Ashley had confided about her struggles with her ex, but few could have imagined that those difficulties would end in such a horrific crime. For many, the case became a call to pay closer attention to the people in their lives, to listen carefully when someone expresses fear, and to never underestimate the potential for violence. In the end, Ashley's community has been united by both grief and determination. They refuse to let her story be forgotten. They stand with her family, demanding answers and justice, and reminding everyone that Ashley was not just a victim of crime. She was a mother, a daughter, a friend, and a woman who deserved to live. Conclusion and reflection: the murder of Ashley Elkins is a case that will be remembered not just for its brutality, but also for its complexity. It reminds us that crimes do not always end with neat answers. Sometimes, families are left with unanswered questions, endless searches, and painful memories. For investigators, the case proves the importance of persistence. From digital searches to blood evidence, from surveillance cameras to landfill searches, every detail has played a role in building a case without a body. For Ashley's family, the pain continues. They will live with the memories of her laughter and the daily absence of her presence. But they also live with hope that justice will prevail, that truth will be revealed in court, and that one day they will be able to say goodbye properly. This is more than a story of crime. It is a story of resilience, of a family demanding answers, and of a community determined not to forget a mother whose life was stolen. If you found this case compelling, make sure to follow for more updates as the trial unfolds and as justice for Ashley is pursued. True crime is not just about what happened, it is about why it matters, and why we must never stop seeking the truth.